Before I get started, I do consulting on where you can move. I'll work with you to find the perfect place for you to move to. There's more information at the end of the video about that. Now let's get started. Back in the day, everybody lived in rural areas. Then, bam, everybody moved to a big city. It was okay at first, but then it got too crowded and dangerous and there was way too much drama. So now everybody's scrambling to figure out where they can go. The only place that's left where it's safe and cheap anymore are small towns. So it might be time to bring it back to the heartland, everybody. This is Tiny Town 2.0. Everything you need. Fireworks, boiled peanuts, discount cigarettes, Waffle House. That's South Carolina for you right there, boy. That and Spit Out Chew. You can't go 10 feet in parts of this state without stepping in Spit Out Chew. Yuck. Aw, South Carolina. You're in the deep South here. If you've ever been to South Carolina, you'd know much of the state's very conservative and redneck. But it's not all rednecks here. There's lots of places in this state that are not that. If you've been paying attention, I've been working on this series called Tiny Towns 2.0. The goal is to showcase small towns all over the country so that people can see what it would be like to live in them. There's been a big shift in interest from living in big, crowded, expensive, and crime-ridden cities to more smaller, affordable communities. For this episode, I headed to Beaufort, South Carolina, population 13,404. It's always been called one of the best places to live in South Carolina. It's a big tourist town, but that doesn't mean you can't live here, right? I went to downtown Beaufort, and drove through the nice parts of town, and visited some regular neighborhoods. I also talked to somebody who lives here to get their perspective on what it's like to live in Beaufort, South Carolina. It's Beaufort, it's on the coast. It's Beaufort, you could live here, I bet you could. It's so nice, there's not much crime. You should see when all the boats come driving by. Where is Beaufort? It's on the South Carolina coast, about halfway between the very southern cities of Charleston and Savannah, Georgia. This whole coastline here is one big tourist stop. Just about all of Beaufort sits on a series of islands surrounded by low-lying marshland. It looks like this. Even though it's right on the coast, there's not really a traditional sandy beach nearby, but it is really pretty. Now driving into Beaufort, it's pretty backwoods. There's pockets of rural poverty mixed in with smallish housing developments. There's not much in terms of city life, even within a few miles of downtown. This is downtown Beaufort. I'm going to show you some of it now and then go back to downtown again later. As you can see, downtown Beaufort isn't very large. Its small main street is only 5 or 6 blocks long. It looks bigger than it is because it's so well maintained. They've done a really great job of making it look really charming here. There's lots of boutique shopping, artsy stuff, and bars and restaurants. So cool, Beaufort. Downtown also sits along the waterfront where there's a marina, a park, and a really long pathway. The marina next to the park's really neat. Who doesn't like looking at boats, right? Lots of people sit out along the water and watch all the cruise ships pull up. One longtime resident who works along the waterfront said that a lot of the little cruise ships that dock here are filled with elderly folks who usually don't even get off the boat. I looked inside one of them. It looks like a floating assisted living facility. That sucks if these passengers don't ever leave the ship when they dock. I bet they miss out on a lot of cool stuff. Outside of downtown are where most of the locals go for their shopping and for more traditional needs. Since downtown is geared so much towards the tourists coming through every day, if you lived here, you'd probably stay away from downtown for your own sanity. Beaufort isn't a poor place, relatively speaking. About 1 in 10 people here live in poverty, which is slightly below the national average. That's sad in this country when 1 in 10 people collecting benefits isn't that high. But that's the state of the nation. The cost of living here is about on par with the national cost of living. Homes here average about $350,000. But unless you make like zero money, your income taxes are going to be high. Look at this chart. Anyone that makes over $15,400 a year pays 7% annually in state taxes. You would have to make under $3,000 a year to pay no state income tax. Well, I guess that's nice of them, huh? This place is always on lists for the best place to retire, and you can see why. Beaufort's been called one of the best small towns in the South many, many times by publications you may or may not have heard of. Now, I mentioned how Beaufort's on an island. Most of Beaufort's on Port Royal Island. But as you leave downtown, you cross a series of bridges to other smaller islands. There's about 65 total islands that make up this island chain, and many are small and uninhabited. The largest islands are where a lot of the rich folks live. Here's an example of what one of these island communities looks like. This is Cat Island. There's hundreds of homes out here, and many of them are very nice. Some have water access. There's golf courses way out here too. But wherever you turn on these islands, it's very dark and swampy and almost prehistoric. For perspective, homes here on Cat Island are worth close to $1 million these days. That's far higher than Beaufort's average home price on the mainland. Some of these islands are fancier than others. You're about 20 minutes from downtown Beaufort, way out on these island chains. It's really neat out here. This is the historic district in Beaufort, which is just a few blocks from downtown. It oozes Southern charm here, pal. Homes here are going to be a pretty penny, mister. Like anywhere from $300,000 to $1.6 million, depending on how fixed up the place is. And many of these places are very much fixed up. Now, if you Google the safety factor here, the internet will tell you Beaufort has a crime rate that's significantly higher than the national average. While that might indeed be true, I've been to a ton of places with high crime rates, and this place feels just fine. I rode around on my bike at night all over the greater downtown area, and it's just oddly quiet and empty. I'm sure there's pockets of town where you might have to worry about robberies like most small southern communities, but it feels very laid back at night here, at least the places I saw. You could get lost in some random neighborhood at night like I did on my bike and not have to watch your back, G. I mean, check this out. A bookstore that leaves books out after hours for people to pay using an honor system? Are you kidding me? Do you think in California you can leave a bunch of books out without them getting taken and sold for crack? And even the bikes at the hotel we stayed at were based on the honor system. They just sat out in the parking lot, unlocked. Do you think in downtown Baltimore they could just leave a bunch of bikes unattended? No way, pal. No way. Maybe the reason it's so safe here is they have these tsunami surveillance systems in parts of Beaufort. Have you heard of these things? Word on the street is crime is lowered by up to 50% in areas where these are installed. Even NASA has them on its bases. These cameras are even bulletproof. What the heck? The visual homeless scene here really isn't a thing, at least from what I could see. All over the West Coast and in other major cities, parks like this would be inundated with bums and trash and graffiti and drama. Not here. Sure, at night there's a few people laying around in the Riverside Park area. I counted 4 of them, and I rode my bike around for a long time looking to see how bad the bum scene is here. You might occasionally have somebody ask you for change, but again, it's hardly a thing, and it's surprisingly minimal for a tourist destination. I wonder if they run them out of town. Who knows? Now, I showed you some fancy parts of town. Here's the middle class part of town. It looks pretty nice. Homes here are going to be in the high 200,000s. Not bad at all, huh, people? Just a nice, safe part of town about 10 minutes from the coast. For additional perspective, I am now in what can be considered one of the least expensive parts of Beaufort. There very well might be worse places in town than this, but I had a hard time finding them. In a section of town like this, you can get a place for anywhere in the low to mid 200,000s. Again, think about it. There's nowhere you can get a home for $230,000 in most major city suburbs, and if you find it, it's going to be really ghetto and dangerous. Not here. Just southern charmingly dated cheap neighborhoods. So what is Beaufort missing? Well, not a lot actually. Of course, it's amazing to retire here, but the job scene isn't going to blow you away. I suppose there's enough going on here that just about everyone can find something to do for work. It's a great place to live if you're 20 years old and you want to work in the service or tourism industries. And I already mentioned the lack of beaches, so if you like to go to the beaches, there's not a lot of beaches nearby. But there's a lot of outdoorsy stuff to do in this part of the state. And the schools here are above average for a state with bad schools, so read into that how you want. If I were to rank Beaufort in terms of how nice it is, I'd say parts of it would be some of the nicest of all the small towns I've visited yet. Although, again, it's very touristy here, so you have to deal with lots of seasonal traffic and annoying out-of-towners if you made this your home. While out and about in Beaufort, I frequented the downtown area to get my finger on the pulse. Downtown's very quiet and feels really safe after the sun goes down. I went to the Old Bull Tavern, which I learned is the local fave. It's really neat inside, and I even tried the escargot. It didn't really taste like much. The texture was more like clams than anything else. But the service here is slow. I guess that's how it is in restaurants these days. Folks just don't want to work as much. Beaufort's a southern city, and it's almost 300 years old, so you know there's going to be a lot of history here, and some scary history. I rode through the historic district we saw earlier, but at night. This is where they've made a bunch of horror movies, apparently. It's really creepy in some of these streets. I also rode my bike through a cemetery just a few blocks from downtown. I wondered how many pirates are buried here. I saw tombstones that dated back to the late 1700s. So if you don't like haunted stuff, then Beaufort might not be for you. This shit is haunted. Or at least, that's what they say in town.
I heard Charleston, South Carolina is the most haunted place in the South.
I think New Orleans is more haunted than Charleston, Mappy, but you've never been to New Orleans. A Nolans ghost tour operator once told me that the spirits attach to people and follow them home after ghost tours in New Orleans. That would suck.
If a ghost followed me home, I'd use this.
I don't think you can shoot ghosts, Mappy. Is it feasible for you to move to? I don't know. But they've sure done a great job at keeping this a really neat place, I'll tell you that. Now I'm going to show some more of Beaufort, all the different areas of town that I visited, and kind of get a feel for this place. And right now we're also going to be joined by a resident of Beaufort. They're going to talk to us about what it's like to live here. Okay, everybody, right now we have Wendy Gallagher, who's a real estate agent with Keller Williams in Beaufort, South Carolina. Hi, Wendy.
Hi.
I thank you for joining me to talk about Beaufort a little bit.
Sure.
We were there a few weeks ago. You know, I think Beaufort's one of the best little small towns I've seen yet down here in the South. I really like it there. It's really friendly. It's really pretty. Give people kind of an idea on what it's like to live in Beaufort.
We love the lifestyle here that is readily available. We're 15 minutes from the beach. Because we're a series of sea islands, we have a million waterways to explore. I'm a kayaker. My best friend here is a kayaker. So we really like to take our kayaks and go to a different place every time. Or sometimes, we just have a little place we like to go back to. So to me, that's one of the most fascinating parts of Beaufort. I know there are bikers who love riding through the sea islands and, the old plantations. So we have really enjoyed the lifestyle here. And in Beaufort, the locals have a saying, and they say that if you starve to death in Beaufort, you're just too lazy to go to the river and pull something out of it. And it's true. We actually do have people who enjoy catching their dinner, throw in a cast net or put out the crab pots. We have a lot of blue crabs here, which I think is the same crab they have in Maryland that almost everybody's familiar with. But the seafood, the restaurants, the access to waterways, it's everywhere you go, you cross a bridge, you cross a causeway, you're looking at marsh, you're looking at boats, you're looking at sandbars, and then on top of all that, there's the historic district, and there's the history that Beaufort has, which is amazingly quirky and hilarious at times, and true and very meaningful. The people here are super. They're warm. They're warm-hearted. They're big-hearted. They welcome people from anywhere. They don't care if they weren't born or raised here, because we are a tourism town. So, there aren't a lot of people here. It's rarer that you find the local who was born and raised here. I've got probably 8 real estate agents who were born and raised here, and I feel very lucky to have that many, because they know the places, they know the little hidden gems, and they have the stories to tell of what it was like to grow up in Beaufort. So we moved here from Columbia, which is the capital of South Carolina. We moved in 2006, and we've noticed a really great improvement in the quality of our lifestyle since we've moved here. And things are at our fingertips, whereas from Columbia, we had to go and rent a place and or stay at a friend's house on the coast in order to fish and shrimp and do that kind of thing. And now we just go, to wherever we want from where we live, and we love that. We have made the best friends here, and both of us have reestablished businesses here. So I feel like it is a community that's pretty hungry for new businesses. I know we're all hungry for new restaurants because they're always packed and on a wait here. So we definitely are growing faster than, we expected. We've got a lot of people. I've got some folks coming down from Charleston this afternoon that are really interested in some waterfront properties that are under $1 million here. They're listed between 800 and $1 million, and to be on water in Charleston for that amount is just it's unheard of. You can't do it. So we're getting some of that here, which is really nice, because we know those Charleston relocatees are going to love fishing and shrimping and kayaking and boating and all of the things that we do here. So going to be a good fit for them too. We do have a number of photographers here. It seems to be a huge hobby here. So I think that's the natural beauty, and also the fact that we have so many retirees. They look for something to do with their time, and they seem to navigate to photography naturally. So, it does have something for everyone, not to mention 38 golf courses in Beaufort County. So you can play golf if golf is your thing. You can hunt if hunting is your thing. There is a deer season and a duck season. There's a shrimp season. I think there's a season for everything here. I think they even have a season when they harvest a lot of horseshoe crabs here.
Yeah. How has Beaufort changed, and is it changing in a good way? Are there some challenges and issues that Beaufort faces as it grows?
Traffic would be the major thing, and housing. The average house in South Carolina is $300,000 right now, and that can be kind of hard for a first-time home buyer, especially with interest rates at 5% and climbing. So that is one of the most difficult things here for us. And we have a lot of people coming in and out all the time because we also have the Parris Island training base for Marines, and then the Marine Corps Air Station for the F-18s and the F-35 fighter jets. Those folks usually get a personal command station change about every 3 years. Whereas most people in America tend to move every 5 to 8 years, they move a lot more often. So they're a pretty large part of our real estate economy too. They drive a lot of things here, and the housing is the biggest challenge for them, So like for everyone.
Yeah, is that like the case because it's such a wonderful place that word is out now, and so people are flocking there?
Seems like that.
Yeah. How does word get out about Little Beaufort? Because I'd imagine that 9 out of 10 people that watch this video have never heard of Beaufort, South Carolina before.
You're probably right. And there's Beaufort, North Carolina, and then there's Beaufort, South Carolina. So those are often confused with each other. But Beaufort has been named over and over again, accolades by Southern Living magazine. Condé Nast Traveler said it was one of the places that the Ace Basin is one of the places that you want to visit at least once in your life. The Ace Basin is where we're located, and that is where 3 rivers come together, the Ashpoo, the Combahee, and the Edisto. And they create this amazing delta-like thing where it's just full of shrimp and crabs and oysters and wildlife, and it just generates right there, and it just feeds all down to our tributaries. So, and there are so many pristine places left here too, places where there's nothing but marsh and birds all around. And I think that was one of the things that's been pointed out. The natural beauty here is still pristine, and we've been very careful to preserve it. So yeah, I think Southern Living magazine named us as the most romantic small town on the East Coast in 2000.
Dang, that's a big.
I know. Well, we have the carriages and everything, and we have the inns, tons of bed and breakfast, and then we've got the waterfront with the swings that you can just watch the moon or whatever, with your sweetie, and it's a good place. It is, and it's so close to Savannah and Charleston that it doesn't bother me that we don't have a mall because we don't have a mall. But we're very close to Savannah and to Charleston, and so that makes up for it. We don't have a Costco, we don't have a Sam's Club, but they're within 30 minutes if you go to Bluffton, and then if you want to go to Pooler, Georgia, that's a 45-minute drive, and so it is well located. 30 minutes off the interstate, so we'll need to GPS wherever you go here. But I promise you, getting lost will be an adventure if you get lost here. And people will be really friendly and give you directions. And they'll let you in traffic and out of turns. And it's just very, very Southern. I know one of my clients once said, one of the things he liked about Beaufort is that the women here still wear dresses. And that every spring, him and his buddy like to sit downtown on Bay Street, which is our main street, and watch the young girls when they start breaking out the sundresses. I'm like, oh, that's really so sweet. But yeah, it is kind of a little old school, very similar to what Charleston was like in the 80s. And getting there, but with a little more slowness to the pace than with Charleston. We call it island time.
You don't want to be like Charleston. Charleston's too much.
No,
it's overwhelming. It's very beautiful. It's very charming, but it's just like there's just too much going on. It's great for a weekend. Number one, I could not afford to live in the part of Charleston I would want to live in, but it's just it's too much. But a very fun place to go and visit. I love Charleston a lot, and I think Beaufort's just like Charleston light, in my opinion. Just a little teeny little Charleston
light, yeah. Little Charleston. You're right. And we have a lot of outlying areas, and Beaufort is still lucky enough to have a lot of hidden gems, little pockets of absolutely gorgeous natural areas. So I don't know. It's just, it's awesome living here. We absolutely will. This is it for us. We're home.
So like jobs wise, let's say a family's considering moving down to the lowland. Is that what you all call it? Low country. Outside of being a real estate agent or self-employed or in tourism, would folks that don't work from home struggle to find like a career around there?
Well, because we have so many elderly people, we also have a huge medical community here.
Mm-hmm.
We have Beaufort Memorial Hospital, Beaufort Surgery Center. We've got plenty of doctors, nurses, and medical. So that's always an option here to work for one of the medical groups or for the hospital or something that's related to the medical field. The other thing is, because we are growing so fast and it's so hard to find help these days, the construction industry, everywhere I go, somebody's hiring for something, whether it's for carpentry or roofing, or whether it's a waitress in a restaurant or a bartender or receptionist, teacher. Beaufort hires a lot of retirees who want to teach, and they bring them back as either substitute teachers and oftentimes full-time teachers if they're good. And you know why they are so good? Because they're there because they want to be. They're not there, because it's their career or their paycheck, or they don't want to work summers. They're there because they actually want something to do with their time, and they like the kids. So my son had a really good experience with retiree teachers who had come back. And so the school system would be another thing here. We do have a lot of churches, schools, groups. It's very quaint, but it does have a little town attached to all of the quaintness.
Yeah. And I rode my bike around at night. When I go to a place, I like to explore as much as I can at night to kind of get a feel for the place after dark. I rode around as much as I could possibly ride. Didn't really find any kind of areas that I felt like dangerous or threatening. I didn't see a lot of homeless folks, and it felt very calm and peaceful all over the place.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of homeless. I'm not sure why that is, but probably because we're so small and we don't have that many outreach programs. We have not had an issue with gangs or anything like that. So, as everyone knows, the biggest blemish that we've had recently is that whole Murdoch family saga. So there's 4 murders now that are being investigated. There's Mallory Beach, Gloria Satterfield, and Paul and Maggie Murdoch, the son and his mother. And then there's one other brother, Buster, who I understand is living in a house up in Fort Mill, South Carolina. But it's crazy.
Yeah. Besides that, though, it seems like it's a pretty peaceful, quiet place.
Yeah, that is the only thing here, and because it is such a peaceful,
like a major
place,
murder
it has just dominated.
So what advice would you give a family that was thinking about moving down to the Low Country on the coast there in South Carolina?
So I would tell them that they would love it. They probably don't need to bring everything they have, because a lot of it, that'll be hard. It'll be hard, especially if they're coming from a place where people live in more traditional homes and they have dining room sets and all that stuff, because here we don't really use those. And we're not even building very many fireplaces inside of houses. Everybody just wants to do a fire pit outside here right now, or either a fireplace on their screen porch. That seems to be the trend. So it's just a different environment. It's a different style of house and a different type of house. Be prepared for that. Be prepared that it does get hot here, but it's great weather 90% of the time. We have a lot of school choices here. If you want to go to public school, we have some great public schools. We have private schools. We have charter schools. It's a really beautiful place. And I think that most people enjoy their life here. Most of the military, when I moved them away from Beaufort, they really have enjoyed their time here and loved it. And they've said they're going to really miss it. And, especially the proximity to the beaches and the different festivals that we have here, the water festival, the shrimp festival, all of those different things that they're really going to miss. And the beaches. The kids always like the beaches.
Well, all the good things we talked about, besides the murder mystery that's currently looming over, every town has a negative thing. It all sounds so perfect, but in reality, what are a couple things that Beaufort has to deal with, or issues, or just things to think about that are not glowing?
So I would say that is probably the process of approval for building and things like that here. And we have a historic review board and a historic Beaufort Foundation, and they're strict about anything that goes on or is changed in any of the historic district. And people do find that they fight that a lot. But you know what? They just want everything to look right.
I think most cities and towns would be thrilled with their biggest problem being an overambitious town council and planning board, if being their biggest problem, because most places have much bigger problems than that.
We're still kind of behind on the way we do things here. We don't just rubber stamp everything. Every plan goes for approval before.
You can tell it's a beautiful place. So,
yeah. So.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think it's one of the coolest small towns I've visited yet. And
I'm so glad you liked it.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. And I'm glad that I got to show it to everybody. Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.